That's right. I made $50,000 in one day as a tech coach. No, this isn't some Gen Y coaching scam. I'm going to tell you how I legitimately helped my clients save a fortune and made $50,000 for one day's worth of work. Okay, well, one day's worth of work over the course of a week. How about that? That's a little bit more honest for you. Let's address the elephant in the room. No, I don't charge $50,000 a day. I wish I did. I really wish I could. Normally I charge either hourly, weekly, daily, whatever, plus travel. However, for some of my clients, I do sign contingency. The way contingency works is I'll go in and I will find ways to improve the process or save a bunch of money. And the client will pay me 10% of the savings that I realize over the next 5 years. And that could be a lot of money or it could be nothing. I mean, some clients are just so well run, or some clients, they may not want to do any changes whatsoever. And let's be kind of honest, when I'm working contingency, I'm a lot more selective with the clients I take. The way the story begins, one of my clients brought me in and said, "Hey, Ennis, can you take a week and see if there's any low-hanging fruit?" And I know everyone hates the word low-hanging fruit. Is there any low-hanging fruit that you can use to help us improve our process and help us get more out of our current dollars? We don't have a lot of money to spend. I said, sure. We go in on contingency agreement and I do what I normally do. I start by bringing all the tech people. I have some one-on-ones like, okay, what would you change? What's going great? What's not working? If you had a magic wand, what would you change? That's how I always start because I don't know everything. I need to figure it out. And one of the things that I love so much about consulting, and maybe you like it too, maybe you don't, is when you get to go into a new environment and you get to dive into this new process and go through thousands or hundreds of millions of lines of code and really get to know a complete new code base from scratch. That is so exciting, and it's one of the best parts of this job. And if you're not a programmer, you probably don't understand just how much fun it is to do this, code archaeology and go through it with new people and discover new things, because every line of code at every company is just something completely new, and it's so much fun. I love it. And for this, we got some great ideas, and we just opened up and we started diving through. And immediately we came to this really interesting service call. It blocked between 1.5 and 3.5 seconds for every unauthenticated web visitor. Think about that. Unauthenticated. So these are people who aren't clients yet, or maybe are going to come in to be clients, and they have to wait 1.5 seconds to 3.5 seconds before the web page will even render. There's a red flag, or a green flag, because it's a great place to look for potential savings and potential process improvement. Let's go on a tangent and check out a graphic. For those that don't know, 1.5 to 3.5 seconds is an eternity in web design. According to a Google study, the probability of a bounce increases to 90% for a 5-second page load, and for every 1 second to render, conversion rate drops another 4%. That's real money on conversion. That's not the end all be all, but that gave us a place to start. And so we dove into this code and we started looking at it. And we eventually found the code. And this is where the story actually kind of gets funny. We're looking at the code and suddenly the lead architect, his eyes light up. And then he has this to say to me.
"You don't have the current version of our code."
"What do you mean?" I inquired.
"We fixed this bug 6 months ago, and we'll be releasing the update in 2 months.
We did get blamed, and we discovered 2 interesting pieces of information. Number 1, the code had been in production for almost 4 years. And number 2, no one employed at the company was responsible for writing it. I guess that's a good thing. What's more, I asked, well, if the code's fixed, how come it's been 6 months and it hasn't been deployed in production? We're sitting here looking at maybe a 4-line code change. And it turns out there's a very rigorous, onerous deployment process. And so I worked with the team. We discovered what a process could look like, not CI/CD. I realize we all love CI/CD, but a more realistic process that they could implement this week to maybe see their improvements. I took those ideas, I took some other data elements from other interesting places we had discovered, and I brought a report to the CEO, and I presented to the CEO, and I showed the CEO, hey, look at this. With these small key changes that we can implement this week, well, next week because it's a Friday, you can save $12 million over the next 5 years. And the CEO is ecstatic. Look at all of the opportunity that she would be able to realize with that extra $12 million. And then she started to get a worried look on her face. And I couldn't tell. I didn't know what was going on. And then she looked up at me and she began to speak.
Ennis, that is too much money for one day's work.
That's a good problem to have. You're worried about paying me too much money for bringing in $12 million. And I guess I was right. I kind of agreed with her. It was a lot of money for just a week's worth of work. So we negotiated down a little bit, and that's how I was able to make $50,000 for what was effectively just one day's worth of work. Why do I share this video with you? Am I humble bragging? Am I trying to pat myself on the back for how lucky I was to buy a sports car with one day's worth of work? No, that's not it at all. What I want to share with you is that when we have the love of code, we share the joy of code and technology and architect and design. It's not just about writing the code. Everything we do has a cost associated with it, and we have to take into account the cost when developing our systems. Everything costs money, and we can't sit back on our laurels. I know, we have a brand new greenfield project. We spend 2 or 3 months, we get the perfect architecture, and then the next 4 years executing? That's fantastic, but we may never even revisit what we did. We have to constantly revisit what we've done and look at the actual cost. And there's a fortune to be made in there. I suggest that each and every one of you look at your internal processes, the way you write code, your key metrics like your cycle time, your throughput, your quality, and look at it from a financial perspective. What are the value of these numbers? How are they driving? Can we change these numbers? Pitch these numbers to your financial team and you'll unlock a wealth of financial rewards for your company without spending an extra cent. You'll just unlock so much more potential for your teams and you'll be free to do the stuff you really love to do. Questions, comments, put them below.